You're listening to PetLifeRadio.com.
Teacher's Pet is brought to you by Petco.com. Petco is a leading specialty retailer of premium pet food supplies and services, offering more than 10,000 high-quality pet-related products. Enter the code TEACHER10, teacher, the number 10, and get 10% off any order. No minimum at Petco.com.
Okay, class, take your seats. I said take your seats. Class, sit. Shh. I swear you're all acting like a bunch of animals. Pet Life Radio presents Teacher's Pet, where you'll learn how to understand and communicate with your pet and train them to be the best pet they can be. It's time to see the world from your pet's point of view. So give a tail-wagging welcome to your Teacher's Pet host on PetLifeRadio.com. You may even learn a few tricks yourself.
Hi, welcome to Teacher's Pet on Pet Life Radio. This is Pia Silvani, your host and Director of Training and Behavior at St. Hubert's Animal Welfare Center in Madison, New Jersey. I'd like to welcome a very special guest and friend this week, Dr. Patricia McConnell. Dr. McConnell is an ethologist and certified applied animal behaviorist who received her doctorate in zoology from the University of Wisconsin, researching communication between people and dogs. Also, Dr. McConnell has helped millions of people through public radio's Calling All Pets and Animal Planet's Pet Line. She's the author of over 15 books, and one is better than the next, as well as an internationally acclaimed expert on canine behavior and dog training. So today we're going to be talking to Dr. McConnell about her newly revamped book, her new edition of the Puppy Primer. It's never too early to start training your puppy, and your puppy's behavior is equally as important as its well-being and physical health. And Dr. McConnell, along with Brenda Scidmore, has written the perfect 6-week training program to help you and your puppy get off to the right paw. Dr. McConnell will be talking to us about how to humanely and effectively teach your pup the rules of your house and much more. So, if you're interested in this topic, which I'm sure you will be, don't go away.
Okay, class, grab your tuna flakes, biscuits, and bones. Teacher's Pet will be back in 2 shakes of a tail, right after recess.
Hey, boy, how you doing? What am I doing? I'm creating your own life book. It's a website that's just for you. Remember that picture I took of you pulling off Lisa's bathing suit? Yeah, I know, me too. I'm putting that awesome picture on your life book page. We'll see what comments we get. And that great video we took of you standing on the table with your head inside the turkey? That's definitely going on there. No, it's easy. It only took me 2 minutes to set up your page. I chose a great theme, and I can connect with millions of other pet parents. I can also create a memorial life book. No, not for Grandma, but we can make one for Fluffy, remember her? And we can even put links to our favorite pet charity, and friends can make donations. People can create their own life book for their pets by going to PetLifeRadio.livingyearspets.com, or they can sign up on the Pet Life Radio homepage. Where's Lisa? She's outside by the pool. Hey, come back here! Create your own life book for your pet. PetLifeRadio.livingyearspets.com.
Attention passengers, please fasten your seatbelts, put your seat bags and sleeping pets in their full upright position, and prepare for takeoff.
Pet Life Radio presents Travel Tales, the show where you'll get great travel ideas on perfect places for you and your pet. From Paris to paradise, south of the border to the South Seas, Travel Tales will give you cool tips on fun vacation destinations to travel with your pet, pet-friendly hotels, and advice on how to travel safely and happily with your furry best friends. So, get ready to pack the bags and the bones with your Travel Tales hosts, Susan Sims and Nicholas Veslowski, every week on demand, only on PetLifeRadio.com.
Let's Talk Pets on PetLifeRadio.com.
Okay, class, hang up your collars and leashes. Teacher's Pet is back in session. Now park yourselves on the floor. I said park, not bark. Ugh. Okay, Teacher's Pet. Pay attention. There may be a quiz later.
Welcome back. This is Pia Silvani, host of Teacher's Pet on Pet Life Radio. I'd like to welcome today's special guest, Dr. Patricia McConnell, who will be talking us today about training that perfect puppy. Hi, Tricia. How are you?
Hi, Pia. Glad to be here.
I love this little book. I think it's the perfect, all of your books are the perfect size, I find, but this one I think is just so critical for people that if they have gotten a brand new puppy or if they have had puppies before and they would like to really be up to date on the new training methodologies. So I'm really glad that you have updated this edition.
Yeah, it was fun.
Oh, I bet. The first thing I think, which we always talk about, the most important thing is good socialization. And when people think about socialization, I think the average person would define that as getting your puppy exposed to things. What's wrong with that definition?
Well, I'm so glad you brought that up because that's a potential for trouble, actually. The road to hell being paved with good intentions sometimes. Mm-hmm. And there are a couple of things related to that. One is that, strictly speaking, the socialization actually means being exposed in a positive way to individuals who are going to be social partners of yours, So it's really about live things. It's about getting to know people and other dogs, especially, and maybe if you're like me, if you also have cats, getting to know all the animals who are going to be part of your social realm, basically. But the way it's used commonly, it's been expanded a bit to mean being exposed to a varied environment, to the sights and sounds of normal life, to traffic lights and a truck going by and funny things. I have a new puppy, ironically, right now. I have a new puppy, and the first time he saw a stop sign, we were walking down a sidewalk, and he saw a stop sign. It's like a monster. It's a monster stop sign. So that's in general what people are talking about is exposing your puppy to all of the sights and sounds and smells of normal life. The biggest problem that I see, Pia, and I know you see it too, every trainer and behaviorist sees this happen far too often, is that rather than carefully controlled gradual exposure to new things that takes away fear, people flood their animals with too much. And so they'll take a new puppy to a farmer's market where there's 5,000 people and noise and trucks and a crush of people, and the puppy's terrified. And
right.
During this, there's a period of time that's often called a critical or a sensitive period of socialization, it's called, usually from about 7 to 14 weeks or so. This is an age where a puppy's brain is particularly receptive to learning what's normal. It's actually still, the brain is actually still forming. It's still creating branches between individual neurons, and it's deleting some branches between neurons. It's actually gelling into its adult state. And so an animal needs to be exposed to a varied environment in order to be able to cope with stress later on. But if you do it wrong, if you overwhelm them with too much, you actually make them worse. You make them more likely to be overstressed or distressed when they're older. So socialization is not throwing a puppy, and I'll use your phrase, in a mosh pit, which is the phrase that Pia Silvani got every trainer in the country using because it's so perfect. It's not sort of throwing them to the wolves and taking them to a busy, crowded place where they're terrified, or taking them to a puppy socialization class and letting them be terrorized by 4 huge puppies who are 10 times their size who play like bullies. Yeah, so Pia, if you and I could spread that word around the country, we could eliminate a lot of behavioral problems down the road, couldn't we?
Oh, I agree, and I like the fact that you brought up the point about puppy class, and we obviously, yes, we do encourage people to bring their puppies to puppy class, but I think the critical key factor, there are so many trainers out there doing puppy classes, and I would say the majority are probably doing a great job. But what should owners be looking for before they attend a puppy class?
I would frankly, I would not take my puppy to a puppy class until I have been to a similar class by the same company and the same trainer myself. I really wouldn't. I think the most important part of puppy class, if there is a puppy play period, which is what a lot of puppy classes do, which I think can be a wonderful thing or a horrible thing. It's really a mixed bag. What I would look for is a class in which the instructors are extremely thoughtful about dividing the class into groups, into play groups. I'll just give you an example. My puppy now, 16 weeks old, last weekend, he's right in the middle of a puppy socialization class. There are about 12 puppies in this class, and they are divided into 5 groups.
Fabulous.
Seriously, 5 groups. There is one little tiny Cavalier puppy who's just tiny and cautious, and he's by himself. And one at a time, we'll put a little quiet, very quiet other dog in with him, so as to not overwhelm him. And then there's the sort of quiet, slightly shy players, and there's the rowdy boys. So don't you think? I don't know. Do you agree that that's probably the most important thing? Is that the play groups are thoughtfully managed by people who've really thought about, I shouldn't put Sammy in with Boris. Maybe Sammy would be better with, Martha. Is that on your line of thinking?
To me, that is so critical. And you having herding dogs probably realize this too. I have herding dogs, and I find that they typically do not do well in a puppy class where there are lots of dogs running and jumping on one another, because when we think about what are they bred to do, maintain order, they probably look like out of control sheep, all these puppies. And now they're trying to gather them all up and keep them in an orderly fashion. And I find that some dogs do better one-on-one, and they don't do well in group play, where some are perfectly fine in group play. But matching their play styles up, and I think age also has a lot to do with it. Very close in age is so critical, so critical.
And let me just add on to that incredibly important comment you made about play styles, because I think that's not as obvious to some people that dogs play profoundly differently. And I absolutely agree about herding dogs. I have border collies usually. They don't like the kind of pile-on wrestle play that Labradors like to do, and that like bully breeds like to do. It makes them nervous. It makes them uncomfortable. But there's one other point I wanted to add. Based on the research from Barbara Smutz's lab in Ann Arbor in Michigan, Dr. Smutz has been studying play in domestic dogs for quite a few years now. One of the only groups in the country that is studying domestic dog behavior, by the way, and she studies play. And one of the things that's clear from that is that dogs naturally play one-on-one. And you made that point, and I think that's a big part of the potential problem of play groups. Dogs don't naturally play in 5s,
Mm-hmm.
They play one-on-one, and if you have a third dog in there, the third dog is usually sort of the third wheel out. And anyway, so that's just another important point to think about, is that we know how dogs play naturally, and it's not in groups of 10.
So if you were to say to people, the person going in there, here are some red flags, here's something for you to look for to know that your puppy might be in trouble, what would they be?
If I went to a class and there were 9 puppies in the class, and someone said, okay, playtime, everybody let your puppies off leash, frankly,
Run.
I would. Wouldn't you?
Yeah,
I would turn around.
I would.
I know that sounds extreme, but I would turn and walk away. I really would. I would not take my puppy there. And another red flag would be, say they do have them in groups, but there's one puppy who's underneath, some puppy who's like on top and play growling, and that puppy's just having a great time, and underneath there's another little puppy, and they're separated, and the underneath puppy tries to run away. That means instantly that is absolutely not acceptable. Now, it's often that you'll look at that and think like, oh, that little puppy on the bottom, he couldn't be having a good time. But if you separate them for 2 or 3 seconds, and then the little one underneath goes, come on, let's play some more, well, then that's probably okay. But you need trainers who know what to look for. I actually, when I owned a training business for 20 years or so, Dog's Best Friend, and And we only let our most experienced trainers do puppy class. And I think that's one of the problems I see around the country is, it's just a puppy class.
Yeah.
We can have people without that much knowledge and experience do the puppy class because it's just little puppies.
Oh,
but
no.
I think that's the class that actually takes the most experience.
We do the same thing at St. Hubert's. Yep, our most experienced trainers teach the puppy classes because they're quick to interrupt if they feel that any of the puppies are becoming frightened or traumatized also.
Right. Or learning to be a bully.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
On the other end of the spectrum, yes. And dogs
Yes.
can be bullies.
Yes, they can.
They didn't all watch the Disney movies.
Exactly. Well, another thing, too, that is so common, and I'm sure when you had your training school, you heard this all the time, play biting. We know it's normal behavior, but of course, so many times owners have been told, take hold of the nose and tell your puppy no bite, and they proudly say they stopped the biting. What's wrong with that comment?
Personally, I like to use play biting as an opportunity to teach bite inhibition. Now, I should be the first one to say that there isn't a lot of good research on this. Do we really know that if your puppy mouths your arm and you go like a seal, I like to talk like a seal, or you can say ouch, does that teach them how to use their mouth correctly and to teach them to use bite inhibition? There's no good research on that, but it seems to be true. Until we know differently, I think it's important for us to absolutely teach puppies that that we are not like their littermates, that, they can't bite on us like toys, that's not a good thing. But when they first start doing it, I think it's important for us to let them know that their teeth can cause tremendous injury and that we're not like their little puppy littermates. We don't have fur. We have this absurdly delicate little skin, and so when my little puppy now, whenever he makes a mistake with his teeth, I call it, I go, ah! And that's a sound that puppies instinctually stop to. And they'll just stop for a second and back up and look at you like, what? And then that's when you pick up a toy or an object and basically get them interested in that and say, don't bite me, bite this. Is that what you were talking about play biting on people?
Yeah, exactly. Unless you have a puppy that I have where I did the ow and he's like, and your problem is? So get over it, lady. We're having fun.
So what did you do? What did you do when your puppy nipped a little too hard and you yelped and he went like, oh, does that mean you're having fun? Shall I do it again? What did you do?
Yes, I tried different sounds. I thought, let me give a really harsh sound, like a hey, to see, because obviously the high pitch seemed to excite him.
Right.
The low pitch helped, but not much, because he was absolutely still is a feisty puppy. And what I started doing was a lot of games, teaching him tug, teaching him to catch a ball and then take it from his mouth. So he started to use his mouth a little more carefully, and I taught him what to place his mouth on instead. Because for whatever reason, yes, as you said, there isn't much research on it, and it's always worked with my other puppies, but this puppy was very different. He was extremely, extremely mouthy, and all of the yelping and the hipping and the hay was not working for him.
It didn't work. And, I've also seen the yelping be least effective with kids. So that's something to keep in mind, is that when kids do it for some reason, even with a normal puppy, I think the voices just aren't powerful enough, or whatever it is, it could often just get them excited. But I love that you brought up that one of the ways you dealt with this is by not so much focusing on what was wrong, but on focusing what you did want him to do. And I think, that's one of the underlying themes of the puppy primer, which is that this is your chance to teach your dog what you do want him to do, and it's so much more effective to teach what you do want. So here you taught your puppy, play with this, bite on this, this is what you bite on, and this is how you use your mouth, and this is how we get control over it. One of the games that we have in the book is take it and drop, and I've teaching my puppies that right now too. It's such a great way to teach dogs emotional control, which is such a good thing to be teaching them when they're young. Such a great way to teach them, take it and they grab a hold, you go tug, and you let them play growl, and you have a good time together, and then you say drop, and I just do it with a piece of food in the other hand. I'll just say drop, move the food right to their nose, and just about every puppy in the world opens their mouth like lightning and takes a piece of food. And so with a lot of puppies, you can teach drop really, really fast. And then you either give them a piece of food, and after a couple sessions, you just give them the toy back. You play tug again. That's their reinforcement. And so you've taught them a game. You've taught them a way to exercise them. You've taught them emotional control, or you're teaching them to help learn emotional control. And so there's so much about using tricks and games with puppies as a way to teach obedience and patient, polite behavior, which is, what we want once they're grown up. We want dogs to listen to us. We want them to be polite, and we want them to be fun rather than sort of jerks.
Yes, right.
That's a scientific term there.
Yes, that was a good one. Yes, I really do want to like you, but you're being a jerk right now. So on that note, we're going to take a very short break to hear from our sponsor, so don't go away.
Okay, class, grab your tuna flakes, biscuits, and bones. Teacher's Pet will be back in 2 shakes of a tail, right after recess.
Teacher's Pet is brought to you by 1-800-PET-MEDS, America's largest pet pharmacy. 1-800-PET-MEDS is your best source for pet medications, vitamins, supplements, and pet supplies. Get great savings, fast service, and free shipping. Go to petmeds.com/teacher to get 10% off any order and free shipping on orders of $39 or more.
Greetings, humans. What planet am I on?
Welcome to Pet Planet. Here's a copy of Pet Planet Magazine, Florida's most informative and fun pet resource magazine. It features heartwarming stories and informative articles from local and national pet experts.
Excellent.
Pet Planet Magazine offers Operation Planet Rescue, helping rescued pets find new homes. And it's available at 500 locations in South and Central Florida and 24/7 on the internet at petplanetmagazine.com. If you're out and about with your pet, you may be featured in Paparazzi, candid pictures of you and your pet. For up-to-date pet-friendly events, activities, and pet-related services and products, Pet Planet Magazine is your final destination.
I shall take this magazine home with me.
Back to your home planet?
No, to my condo in Boca.
Pet Planet Magazine. Check them out at www.petplanetmagazine.com or 352-394-8578. It's out of this world.
When you're looking to add a pet into your life, consider adopting a homeless animal from your local shelter or rescue group. Whether you want a kitten, puppy, or a more mature pet, a purebred or a one-of-a-kind mixed breed, even a rabbit or hamster, your shelter has the best selection of animals anywhere, all screened for good health and behavior. PetLifeRadio.com presents Take Me Home with your host, Susan Daffron. Join us each week as we showcase wonderful pets, tell stories, and even throw some pet education into the mix. So get ready to find out why the pet adoption option can be a great way to add a furry companion into your life. Take Me Home every week on demand, only on PetLifeRadio.com. Let's talk pets
Let's talk pets
on Pet Life Radio.
Pet Life Radio.
PetLifeRadio.com.
Okay, class, hang up your collars and leashes. Teacher's Pet is back in session. Now park yourselves on the floor. I said park, not bark. Oh. Okay, Teacher's Pet. Pay attention, there may be a quiz later.
Welcome back. This is Pia Silvani, host of Teacher's Pet on Pet Life Radio. As you know, we're talking to our special guest, Dr. Patricia McConnell, about puppies. Patricia, one thing I love that you brought up in the book, because we never see this in any book, car sickness, and it's so common. So please tell our audience some of the suggestions that you have.
You're right. That isn't in any book.
No.
You're right, including mine, as I think about it. And, I think maybe it should be sometime in the next version. It is, yeah, it is so common. There are two things that are really common. One is submissive urination, and the other is being car sick. And the great news about car sickness is it really usually does go away. And the trick with that, as much as you possibly can, is to take your puppy, who has not just filled his belly up full of his dinner, but take your puppy on really short rides. I like to even just put him in the car. Just put him in the car, get him used to being in the crate in the car, hang out with him. You sit in the car and you read a novel or listen to a tape, listen to a book on tape, hang out, turn the engine on, drive around the block, drive somewhere really fun that's really close. Very often, if you can pull that off, very often they get over car sickness very, very early on. There's some adult dogs who just continue. They just somehow, for some reason, can't get over it. It often helps if you prevent them from looking at the window. Seeing all that stuff go by so fast is apparently part of what sets off car sickness. So you could have them in a covered crate where they can't see out. I've had clients who gave their dogs Dramamine, after talking to the veterinarian, obviously, about it, that's a possibility. So I have to admit, I had a lot of dogs who were car sick. This little puppy threw up on the way home from where I got him. It was a 3-hour ride, and he threw up. But since then, he's actually been doing really well. We did a bunch of short trips, and he's been fine since. So just like submissive urination, that often goes away, too. So for the first month of my puppy's life, when people came to meet him, I'd say, stay outside. I'll bring him out. So when he pees, while he's meeting you, he'll either pee on the grass or, maybe your shoe if you're not careful.
That's right.
Anyway, it's all gone now, as it often is. You should never correct a dog for being car sick or for submissive urination. It's completely involuntary. They absolutely cannot.
Good. I'm glad you brought that up because I have heard of many people correcting that, and which obviously, as we know, it can make it worse then. So what does one make a happy, confident puppy? How does a person make a happy, confident puppy?
Well, I think there are several things that are most important to keep in mind. One is, again, first and foremost, start right now teaching your puppy what you do want him to do. Don't wait for him to do something wrong and correct him. Teach him that you want him to chew on his toys, not on the table leg. So that means you have lots of toys, and they're out there, and they're always available. So the second he looks at the table leg or starts to chew on it, you can go, and get his attention and give him what you do want him to chew on. You can start teaching him to sit when people come to see him right away. You can start teaching him not to jump up on counters, but to sit back up. So use a lot of positive reinforcement to think, rather than waiting for him to do something wrong and say, no, don't do that, stop yourself and think, what do I want him to do? Just like you did. The perfect example is your super mouthy puppy who's mouthing on you. You thought, what do I want him to do? I'm going to put a lot of energy into teaching him what I do want him to do. So I think that's hugely important. Knowing how to use positive reinforcement, I think, is another huge key to having the dog that you want. Understanding that when you're first teaching a behavior, you need to give them lots of reinforcement, and they define what it is. Petting a squeaky little puppy on the top of the head when you call him, you may not like that. A lot of puppies don't like pat on the top of the head. So you may need to give him a really great food treat, or run and let him chase you for a little bit, or throw his favorite toy, rub his chest or his belly the way he really loves. So you need to reinforce what you want, understanding that it has to be something that he wants at the time. I basically figure that I use about 95% positive reinforcement and about 5% punishment. And the punishment is never grabbing them or yelling them or rolling them over. It's really simple stuff like showing them a piece of food and saying, "Oh, I'm sorry, you don't get that because you didn't listen."
Right.
Or backing them up a little bit. It's very benevolent kind of stuff. So So I think that's important. Also critical is socializing them, getting them out and about, thinking about what is their life going to be like a year from now. Not getting them as soon as school is out when you're a teacher and staying with them all summer long and never leaving them alone, and then bang, school starts and you've gone all day long. Thinking forward, thinking ahead, I think that's really, really important. So one of the things that come to mind first, doing lots of learning how to play correctly with them, that's another thing that pops up in my brain, Pia. Not engaging in a lot of rough and tumble wrestle play. So much fun for some people, especially guys, I have to say.
Oh, I know.
Right? Do you find
yes.
that? Is that what you find? Is it mostly it's guys who like to play wrestle play?
Oh, my husband would live and die for it. And now that he has his son, again, who is Lance's son, and who is a feisty little guy, he's having a blast with it. And of course, he does it in a very sneaky way too. Just like I'm not encouraging him as he's poking and prodding. Oh, really?
You probably have the same challenge I do, because in general, in most homes, getting down on the floor and playing wrestle play with dogs is often not a great idea, because the dog may play fine with, I don't know, a guy, your husband, or you, the adult male, but then they try to play with a 5-year-old on the street like that, and all of a sudden you've got trouble. So I often advise people, don't play wrestle play with their dog. Just focus on object play as much as you can. And tricks. A lot of dogs didn't read a chapter about balls and and stuff. I love tricks. That's part of the new part of the puppy timer that I had so much fun with, is adding a lot of tricks in there, because you can start your puppy right away learning tricks. One, they're just fun, and why not have fun? Everybody loves doing them. There isn't that sort of emotional loading of, like, you sit because I told you to sit, or you have to stay because I'm in charge here. I'm the human. It's like, tricks are like, if he does it, he does it. If he doesn't, he does it. They sort of take the pressure off.
Right.
They're fun for everybody, and they're great mental exercise.
Oh, yes.
Wonderful way to exercise your dog. I mean, you live in New Jersey where it gets really cold in winter. Don't you find that when it's just miserable outside, if you do a 20 minutes of trick training, you've tired your dog out as much as an hour-long walk?
Oh, and they love it. They absolutely love it. They get to figure things out, and I find too with puppies, if they can use their sense, like teaching find it is one of the first things that I teach dogs, to go search for your ball or search for your frisbee and where's your bone, and they truly enjoy that. So they're not only mentally exhausted, but then they get to find their bone maybe or their toy, and then they can be physically exhausted. So it's lots and lots of games where, and studies have been done on this, where it does build a bond. People who play with their dogs are a lot closer.
It's true. Parents who play with their children have a stronger emotional social bond with the kids than parents who don't. And there's a quantity effect. So the more you do it, the stronger the bond is. So I don't see why that wouldn't be true with dogs. And I know, a lot of us have got dogs to play with, right?
Right.
But the trick is that there's some ways to play with dogs that actually create trouble. And there are other ways to play with them that just strengthen your bond, make your dog even more obedient and responsive to you, and just make life so much fun.
Definitely. Now, obviously, they don't last. They don't stay in their puppy coat forever. Right. And now we hit that dastardly juvenile adolescent stage. What are some of the recommendations? When does it start? What are some recommendations that you give to clients?
There is a doggy adolescent period, as best everybody can tell. And it varies. I've found, Pia, I bet you have too, it varies tremendously depending on the breed and the individual. Mm-hmm. So you can see it as early as like 5-6 months in some dogs. You can see it as late as 11-12 months. Very often with a medium-sized dog, it's, maybe you have a lab or a golden. It's somewhere around 7-8 months or so. Is that what you find?
Yeah, I would say.
Maybe a little younger. Certainly around 5 months, they can get a lot more independent. That's really typical. There's a lot of puppy clinginess. It's easy to think your dog's trained to come when they're a puppy. Because they tend to follow you around a lot, and they get a little older, and they get a little bolder, and it's like, yeah, you're going that way, but, I'm going this way. So that could start really early, but sort of classic independence of, or adolescent kind of independence of, every time you've asked me to sit for the last 5 months, I have, and now I've never heard that word before.
Right.
I have no idea what we're talking about. Or, I'm going to pee on the floor. That's what Willie did. He's a 4-year-old now. He had one accident in the house with a puppy. One. And at 5.5, 6 months of age, I was in the kitchen, and he was looking at me, and he just sort of squatted and emptied his bladder right in the middle of the kitchen floor. I was just like, what? What?
Hello?
I was so sad. I didn't think I said anything at first. But it's very typical for adolescent dogs to act just like adolescent humans and act as though they've forgotten everything new. And the best advice I have for everybody is, one, repeat 50 times a day. This too shall pass. This too shall pass. And 2, you just go backwards. You just go backwards. You just say, oh, don't know how to sit. Well, let's remind you, this is how you sit, and you get a treat when you sit when I ask you to. And the trick for me, and this is very personal because I've had a lot of dogs, and I've gone through a lot of adolescence, and I'm very human, I mean, don't you find sometimes that people think professional dog trainers are like, I don't know, like we don't get into the same challenges and have some of the same responses as other people do? You get this adolescent dog at 8 months, like, thumbing you off, and you're like, well, you little jerk.
Yes. Yes.
We're still human, right?
That's right.
What I find for me, and this seems to be advice that works for a lot of people, is just remember that 2 things. 1, breathe, be very patient, but if you ask them to do something, get them to do it. Don't yell at them. Do not get angry and give them that kind of energy that adolescent humans love to suck out of you and then bounce back at you. Do not give them energy. If you ask them to come or to sit, do not end until that has happened. If you have to ask them to sit for 15 minutes, that's okay. End with a sit. And again, patient, polite, and very, that attitude with human. I used to work with adolescents, by the way. When I was in another world, I used to work in social services with adolescents.
Oh, okay.
And basically, the game was it was very dispassionate. It's like, you have some choices here. I don't really care which one you take, but this is what happens. There are consequences. So if you do A, this is what happens. If you do B, that's what happens. Good luck making a good choice. If you come home late after we said you had to bring the car back, then you don't get to use the car for a month. Whatever. And then if they do that, you're not angry. You're just like, no, too bad. That's the choice you made. Don't get to use the car for a month. So that's what I do with adolescents. And I might use some of that negative punishment I talked about. It's like, I asked you to sit and you didn't. See, smell this fistful of chicken that I have? Oh, now that you've smelled it, oh, too bad. I'm going to take it away. I'm going to eat it myself.
Yes.
But maybe if you do it right next time, you'll get some. Do you use that? I find it incredibly effective and very satisfying.
My saying always is, I have all day. Because
I like that.
I don't care. I will stay here till midnight, but I will win.
Yeah. So you do the same thing, huh?
Oh, yeah. I'm not going to give up because we know they have that look. Sort of, they give you that look. As if to say, let's see where this gets me. It's like, okay, let's see where it gets you.
Right. And it's sort of, unless you're late and leaving for a critical meeting, right?
Right.
It's sort of funny. It's sort of cute. They get that little look in their eye, and you can just see their brain whirring, right? There's practically smoke coming out.
It's like they get mad, too, because they're not getting a rise out of you also. And I think that's so important that you brought that up. It's like, I will not ever show you how ticked off I might be right now because you're not listening.
I'm glad you mentioned that. I guess we're both mentioning it. I think that's one of the mythologies, is that if you have a good dog or if you know how to train dogs, you'll never get irritated at your dog. And I wish, that's something I wish that was actually mentioned in puppy classes more than in dog training classes. It's like, we all need to know what to do when you're feeling a tad tweaked.
Right.
I actually wrote a column once for Bark Magazine. It's like, here's the things to do. 1, breathe deeply, to start laughing. Just make it funny, because it often is hysterically funny if you can just sort of put yourself away a little bit. If I'm really furious at a dog, I will say something like, with the sweetest voice imaginable. When if you're too furious, you can't do this. But if I'm irritated at a dog, and they really, I believe they have the foundation to have made a different choice. And again, we have to be sure that they really knew what we wanted, which is often not the case. But if I'm 110% sure a dog knows what I'm asking for and is giving me that look, I'll say something like, "Oh, sweetie, I hate every hair on your body, and you have so many of them. You know, I could drive you to the shelter right now." And it's really important to keep your voice kind and benevolent. So if you're too angry, you can't do that. You might not want to do it. But I have to admit, a few times I have slid in.
Yes.
But it helps me maintain, because I don't want to I think even the nicest people have confessed to me over the years that they've hit their dog or they've screamed at their dog and they've done things they felt badly for. Years and years ago, I got angry at a dog. I was exhausted and stressed, and he was literally hanging on to one of my sheep. And, I grabbed him and I yelled at him, and I'm so angry. And I felt guilty ever since. I didn't hurt him, but I still felt guilty. Didn't want to feel like that. So I think it's useful to acknowledge everybody can get a tad irritated at their dog and have a plan about how to deal with sort of an anger management plan.
Yes.
Of how to deal with it. I think it's a realistic thing for us all to talk about and not pretend that never happened.
Absolutely. Well, it's a fabulous book, and I highly recommend it. Again, it would also make a great gift if somebody's getting a puppy too. You definitely will not be disappointed. So please check it out on Dr. McConnell's website. But unfortunately, we're out of time. So I'd like to thank our wonderful Dr. McConnell for joining us. And I have to admit, I always enjoy interviewing you and talking to you because I know our thinking is so much alike in so many ways. So thank you so much for joining us.
Always my pleasure, Pia. It's always a joy to talk with you.
Great. A special thanks also to our producers, of course, for making this show happen. Also, if you have any questions, comments, suggestions, or ideas for future shows, or if you'd like me to interview anybody in particular, I'd be happy to do that. Just email me at pia@petliferadio.com. So until next time, this is Pia signing off. Thank you, Tricia, and thank you for your interest in Pet Life Radio. Bye.
School's in session on Pet Life Radio with Teacher's Pet. Learn how to communicate with your pet, train your pet, and see the world from your pet's point of view. You may even learn a few tricks yourself. Teacher's Pet, only on PetLifeRadio.com.